Welcome back to another episode of the IndieFilm Insider podcast. My name is Owen Carlo, DP and producer, here with
Jake Rossbell, a writer and director.
Yeah, today we talked with Luke Ring. So Luke is a really interesting guest. He is a filmmaker and director, cinematographer, editor. He also works in the commercial and social media side of things. He is based in Michigan, I believe, and his production company, Sukavision, just released a short film called The Little Library, which caught our attention because it got accepted into the Cleveland International Film Festival. So congratulations, Luke. That is a huge achievement.
So yeah, we talk about festival culture in this podcast, and it's a really interesting topic because for him, his $600 film went up against some really, really elite short films, and it was a very unique experience for him, and we talk a lot about that.
Another thing we went into was kind of the role that nowadays YouTube plays a lot in filmmaking. We talked about how recently Kane Parsons, the guy who made The Backwoods or The Backdoors, I think. The Backrooms, one of them. He recently just got signed for a feature film with A24 at 19 years old. And like I mentioned, the YouTuber to filmmaker pipeline, how he originally started making YouTube videos when he was 15. Now he gets to direct a feature film that's produced and distributed by A24, and how possibly that YouTube to filmmaker pipeline, I've said that like 3 fucking times now, can be a very valid way for nowadays the young filmmakers to take.
Yeah, we see it time and time again. And for Luke himself, Luke is actually a YouTuber. We don't really go into his vlogging life, unfortunately, in this podcast. You'll find this interesting because we talk about sort of making content or making short films in the way that you would make a YouTube video, like trying to keep the retention graph there, or just keeping viewer retention in mind when you're writing the script, when you're editing, just to make things more catchy, and also to not to necessarily make them manufacture them to go viral or anything like that. But there's a very interesting discussion we have where we talk about sort of like maybe the morality and the artistic integrity of some of those things.
Yeah, and then also the last thing we did discuss a little bit was the relationship with your work, possibly as a video editor, possibly as a videographer, and how that relates to the films that you're trying to make. For example, if you are working with video full time, do you kind of burn out at the end of the day and not want to work on your passion projects, or does that fire stay lit underneath you? This was a great episode with Luke Ring. If you want to check him out, all of his socials are in the description below, as well as his production company's YouTube channel, Instagram, all that good stuff. Without further ado, let's hop into a conversation with Luke Ring. Luke, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, boys. As a longtime viewer, I am excited to be finally on. I know we originally talked about it. I feel like, maybe early on in the pod, and then a lot of stuff happened. As normal, I feel like being in the industry, there's a lot of stuff happens, and all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, I forgot I talked about that at some point. So it's good to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, you've been really busy, huh? You've been like on a roll with the short film, right?
Yeah, it's been a busy past, I'd say like 6 months. I started full-time position at like creative agency now, and then balancing that with my narrative shorts project. So trying to play that kind of that balance between the commercial and, as you guys know, narrative world is, because it's interesting to navigate, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah, I kind of wanted to talk to you about both those things, but first let's just give a quick little introduction. Luke, who are you and what do you do within the film world?
Yeah, I am Luke Ring. I am a film director from Southwest Michigan, about an hour out from Chicago. I also am a DP in the commercial world and also do a lot of editing. I'm a creative, and I'm really trying to push, I feel like, as a lot of indie filmmakers are, the making short films. And I feel like every indie filmmaker is probably in that same boat of trying to get their short made, trying to get eventually a feature made, trying to break into the industry further. I've been doing work my entire life. I started kind of with YouTube in 7th grade, as a lot of, I feel like it seems like people start with, is that the YouTube pipeline. It's always the YouTube pipeline. For some reason, it feels like going down that route and then leading into making actual narrative pieces, and then more and more taking it seriously. But it's been a fun couple months, especially seeing our film play at a festival, a bigger festival, a lot of momentum. But yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Yeah, awesome.
Very cool. I have a question, actually. What is that behind you?
That is a great question. That is, I don't know how much of it you can see, but I have my 3 short films, my most recent short films. Little Library is in the middle. Little Library is the festival, as you guys know. I was in the Cleveland International Film Festival. And then I have 2 other short films. which are unreleased, but that I'm waiting to release. But yeah, I just had to get my own. I had to deck out the office with my own stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, no, congrats on the little library getting some like, good success with that. It's always nice to like see your film kind of like go beyond like what you expect for it, because it's like it's a pretty simple project. That's like the first thing I noticed is that it's like a very simple story. It's not a lot of dialogue. It's not too many characters, but it's just enough to get you like hooked.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's just like I went into the idea of kind of from this angle of almost studying like what works at a festival of like, and also the process of like, okay, what makes a good short film? And I was like, I think it would be really interesting to tackle a more like dramatic and deeper story, but without ever saying a word. And Little Library was that film that kind of came out of that. And like you're saying, super simple. I mean, it was shot in one day. I ended up shooting, this is before, now I have started to branch out and finally start building a crew. But at that time, it was like me shooting, running audio, and directing it. And it was like, we're faking 11 days in one, but all in one location, keeping it super simple. And I feel like some of the best stories almost come when you put yourself in that box where you're like, all right, I don't want to use dialogue. I want to keep it in one location. What story can like blossom from this? Because as much as I love to be like, I want to tell a super crazy story and make a bunch of locations, sometimes financially and also like for the best outcome for the story, it's like, I just want to make it simple,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we just came off of a short film. I study people for a living. That was shot over, I want to say 7 days. Over the period of like a month and a half. Granted, only 2 of those days were actually like full shoot days. The rest were like 3 hours here, 3.5 there, 3 hours, blah, blah, whatever. Like, because there was like a montage sequence, so we had to get a bunch of like those, like 2-shot, 3-shot sequences. But it was still a work, like planning, like the crew that was going to be there, the locations, the timing, like everything like that. I feel like the 1 day, 2 day shorts is kind of like almost the Goldilocks zone for a short film, where it's kind of like, yeah, as long as there's a concept that's interesting enough, you can kind of get it, shoot it in a day, shoot it in a weekend, then get it out to festivals, get some recognition for it, meet new people at those festivals, and then kind of move on to the next one. Did you end up attending the Cleveland Film Festival in person?
Yeah, we did. This was the only other festival I went to at this point. Was a smaller festival in New York for one of our projects. It was like, I'm pretty sure it was like 200 people there total. So like compared to Cleveland, it was like nothing. But we went to Cleveland, and it was so interesting at the festival. Like the one thing I tell people is like, I'm watching their sponsors roll up at the end. Number one, the crew list is just like insane. It's just like first, second, third, assistant director. You're like, what are they doing? Like these crews are massive on these other shorts projects. And then it's like sponsors, Aerie, Sony. You're like, oh my gosh. You're like, what are these? Like it's like motivating in a way because it's like your film's being seen next to those. But at the same time, it's like, how, like, in my mind, how does someone with that like sponsor not want to make a feature or not want to like, yeah. I'm like, I don't know if 50 grand, like I was asking some of people would ask us, so our budget for Little Library is $600, not including like, I own a Sony FX6, we own a lot of like really nice lights and all this other stuff that we didn't factor in. Do you guys, when you do your budget, do you factor in your own gear as part of your budget? I don't know I don't feel like that's, and also it's cool.
For the first film, I wanted to do that, but it's like, nah, like what's the point of it? Like we spent like $300 for our first movie, basically all food and fake blood. If I wanted to include like the rental kit for like the FX3 I used or whatever, it'd probably like quadruple the budget. But like, I don't know. There's no point to that other than vanity. Like it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, but what I was saying is like, our budget's like $600, and I'm telling some of these other directors and other producers, because somehow we got on that topic, is like you go into this huddle before you go to screen your film in one of the theaters where they're like, all right, you're gonna play your film, here's when you're playing first, tell other people when they're playing, then they're like, then there'll be a Q&A at the end, or this is when you're supposed to go up, blah blah. And while we're sitting there, they're like, hey, what are your guys' budget? Someone just asked that. And I remember the first, like, they were around the 40, 50 grand range. And one of these short films had a full roller coaster part set that broke, like real roller coaster. Like, it wasn't CG. I'm like, how, number one, do you get to that story and you're like, all right, I got 50 grand. I'm going to spend it on a giant roller coaster. I'm like, I feel like you could use, and I feel like that's something with Hollywood too, is like, where is all this money going? And I get a lot of it's to the bigger stars and to certain positions, but like, I'm like, there's no way a short film should cost that. Like, it's so much money. And I'm like, it was like, I know where I'm at. Little Library, I think is really good. Some of these other shorts are like really incredible, but I'm like, is it 50 grand incredible? Or like some of these other numbers? Yeah. So it's just very interesting at the festival to see those numbers. I don't know. It's just always interesting to hear other people's, like, how much money they're putting into it. And I'm still very young to the game. I'm only 21, so I'm still figuring out like but like I'm starting to learn more and more, like, oh, everything costs, especially in the commercial world, everything costs so much more than you think. So I'm like, okay, I do kind of start to get now, like, oh, it is important to have second, third positions in certain roles and stuff like that too. But the festival was really cool. It was really cool to see our film on the big screen. The Cleveland International Film Festival is fantastic as well. It's all these like old theaters with like all this old art paintings on the wall. It feels very cool, and they get a ton of people in there. Like, I think we had around 200 people see our film, which was great. And it was like, they curate a really good like morale every year as well too. And there's a lot of really cool filmmakers to meet there. But overall, yeah, great time. And it was the first, compared to the other festival, I was like, I feel like I would actually attend this festival myself if my film wasn't in there, if that makes sense too.
Did you get sort of like like, it must have been weird to see Little Library kind of going up with some of those like higher budget films, like you said. Did you feel like, did a couple films play and then Little Library came up and then you're like, oh God, like what, like, oh no, it's coming on, like people are gonna think it's like not nearly as good as the other ones. Like, what were you like nervous kind of being in that environment?
I was 100% nervous. So our film played first, so it was almost better to get it over with first. And I'm definitely proud of Little Library, but because, like, I mean, we made it a year ago, and this is the first time I haven't released a film, like, within a month. Like, this is the first time I actually went to festivals with something, like, truly, instead of holding off, like, just posting it right away online. So I've been sitting on this film, and part of me is like, I am really proud, but I can see some of the flaws in it. I'm thinking of all these little things that people are going to see. And like, I'm sitting there nervous in my seat waiting for it to go on. And then it finally does. And I'm like, wait a minute, I might be overreacting a little bit. I'm like, it's actually better than I thought. If at least it's here, that means someone enjoyed it. And Little Library has like a huge, like, anyone that is over the age of 60 loves Little Library. It scratches some itch for the older audience, especially older women. Have so far every older, like my grandmas and their friends all like will like weep when they watch it, like crying. They're like, and that was an interesting thing because I'm like, it is a basic like setup to you're going to be like, you lose. I mean, I'm talking spoilers, I guess, if you haven't seen the film, of like, she does die. The main woman dies, and it's like, that's very, for, I guess, when older women or older men watch the film, that just hits them a little harder. And we had a lot, like the Cleveland has a huge, like, broad age range. For whatever reason, we had a lot of that. So like we heard people crying around us, which was like, it was cool, which sounds weird to say because we're like, yes. We're like, we got you. We're like, come on, got you. So it was like, definitely nervous though, but it felt good, that relief. And it was like, I think we held our own at the festival too, but definitely nervous because it's like, you just hope, I was just like, please tell me the audio doesn't just like spaz out on me, like the little things, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and also just like thinking about like the fact that your little $600 one-day film was able to get accepted into this massive festival. Like you said, like the 20-person cruise shot on Alexa 35s, $50,000, but like that just says a lot about like the story that you chose to tell and your storytelling skills and your ability to execute it successfully.
I appreciate those kind words. I think it also is like story first, right? It's like,
Yeah.
well, if the only real difference between our two films is the story, it's like, well, bigger budget, bigger crew. It's like the only difference truly is the story at that point. So it's like, and everyone says it, like, story first. Story is the most important thing. But it truly is, especially for a short, like, and I think leaving it, like, I used to love cliffhangers for my shorts or like leaving it off on an ending, but I'm like, I think for a normal audience and for the short film, like, the short films are such a weird category. Like, no one truly watches. I don't know about you. Like, how much do you guys watch shorts?
If it pops up on my YouTube recommended, maybe.
Yeah, not very often for me.
Yeah, but like compared to TV shows and movies, it's crazy. It's like asking a normal person, like, first of all, it's like you sometimes have to explain what a short film is. I'm sure you guys have been there. You're like, not really this day and age. Like, most people I feel like are aware, but like sometimes people are literally like, oh, is that a short movie? Or where do you watch that? It's like, well, it is like an interesting medium in the first place. So like telling the story and leaving it with a cliffhanger, you're like, well, because a while back, like 2 years ago, this is when I learned this lesson. We made a 17-minute gangster short film, and it ended with like a huge cliffhanger. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be crazy. And I dropped a sequel to the short film. The dumbest idea probably to drop a sequel to a short film. That's where I'm like, wait a minute, there really is no, like, it can be done well, but I feel like an A to B storyline, a complete storyline, works really well if you're like looking at telling a complete story in that medium. I don't know, what do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I agree. I think some people, one of the guys we had on recently, Kyle, he kind of talks about how he doesn't like when a short film ends with a cliffhanger when they're trying to make a feature film out of it, because it's almost like a trailer for your feature, and it should be. I think, and I agree with this. I think it should be very much like a closed story. It should be its own thing. It shouldn't be like some kind of like, oh, stay tuned, we're gonna have a feature, or give us, go to our website and give us money. Like, I don't know if it should be like that. But yeah, I've some of our, I don't know if we have like too many cliffhangers. I mean, we do. We have like open-ended, like endings and stuff where it's like up for interpretation. But to me it feels pretty closed when it plays. Like when I actually watch it back, I'm like, yeah, that feels like it ended on a, decent. I feel like you still get the same story, and even if it ends one way or the other, I feel like it still kind of works. But I don't know. For me, I do like cliffhangers, but I like when you can definitely tell where because I always have, like, in my head, I always have an answer as to like how it actually ends. I don't just like do a cliffhanger because I'm like too lazy to actually write the ending. I'm like, okay, does this guy jump off the cliff at the end of the film? I'll leave it up to the audience, but yes, he does, and I'll like give you hints to show you like why I think that, or how you can think that too. But I guess that's my stance, is like, if you do a cliffhanger, I think you should have an actual answer and not just like.
Just be like, it ends and what happened. Yeah, I love like leading the audience with breadcrumbs. It's definitely fun too as a writer. Like, I'm sure like you're just like, all right, you're gonna look here, you're gonna think this, then I want you to think this, but really, like right. Those are definitely fun. And in my head, I'm like, I love those stories. Like, my favorite movies are stories that like make you think at the end. You're like, what just happened? Like a huge twist at the end. And I love, but I also am learning, I'm like, you can't really replicate what works in a feature for a short. Like, it's a whole other world of like, I don't know, it's so tricky, because I really tried to make like mini feature films early on, like my first 5 short films. And I'm like, all right, they're all over like 12, 13 minutes. And I think those can work. But I really have started to love like the 6-minute short, or like the 5 to 7 minute range. And there's also something really interesting. So the programmer, one of the lead programmers in Cleveland, he came up to us and he's like, look, Little Library was one of my top 5 films of the whole festival. He's like, I watched 900 films. And I was like, wow, this felt really great to hear. And then I asked him the question, I'm like, what do you look, I'm like, truthfully, what helps your short get program? Like, what would help a short? And he's like, truthfully, it's how long your film is. Like, if it's like, obviously it's good, like length matters, but for the actual business of a film festival, if they're trying to fit in a 3 to 5 minute film, it's gonna be so much easier than like a 30-minute film. And that to me, for some reason, I'm just like, I didn't even think about it that way. That like, oh, if you make a 1 to 2 minute really great film, it can easily fit in like any set or any like position of the actual festival. And I was like, I hate thinking that way though, because it's like story first, build the story out. But I'm like, that stuff does affect you, you know? Like you're like, what will work well? What will the audience like? Because could this launch me, or could this like, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that we've been talking about a lot, where it's like a short feature film is kind of almost a misuse of the medium. Like short films and feature films are absolutely just like different, like mediums, I guess, to tell a story. And the purpose of short films, in my opinion, like I'm not saying making the 6-7 day short film we made was a mistake, but like I'm gonna be honest, going forward, if I want to do a film that's over, let's say 2.5-3 days of production, I want it to be a feature. I think the main purpose of short films, in my opinion, is practicing storytelling and trying to get into festivals, to meet other people, to network, anything like that. And so if you're spending what could be 3 short films worth of shoot days on one film and you mess up somehow, or it's not received as well as you wanted it to or something, you have less opportunities to swing for the fences and to actually like try to succeed in what, in my opinion, a short film should be trying to succeed at.
Yeah, it's almost like a bit, like you don't want to think about it like a business, but it is. It's like, well, if I spend X money, I'll probably get into a festival. And like me being fully vulnerable, I wrote Little Library wanting to get into a festival. I was like, I'm tired. I love making like action and basically every other genre than what really works in shorts, which is like the sad drama. And I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I'm like, I'm gonna make a sad drama that's gonna pull on people's heartstrings and it's gonna get into a festival. And it did.
And look what happened.
Like, dang it. I'm like, that means what, for my experience, I'm right. Of like, okay, if you make something short that pulls on people's heartstrings, you have a pretty good chance of it being played in a festival. And I don't always think that's true, but now I have to be pretty biased because of my experience in it. Do you guys feel like short films are overly saturated with like drama?
Maybe like drama or horror. I know a lot of people starting out, they try to do horror because you don't need a lot of people to do like an effective horror film. It could be very like, mysterious, or make it like someone's room and they see something in the closet, and then or they like, there's a picture and the picture haunts them or something, it's a very specific example. Ignore that, Parker, if you're watching this. Sorry. Sorry. But yeah, I definitely think like it is pretty drama centric. So far, every film I've directed, not every film, but most of the films I've directed I also gravitate towards drama more, I feel like. But the most recent one we just shot a few days ago it's called Finger Guns. And that's definitely a very surrealist, absurdist kind of comedy, dark comedy. But that one's like going to be around like 6-7 minutes. And that's like, I'm a lot less nervous for that one, because the other one we did, like Owen was mentioning, is like basically we got it down to like around 16 minutes, but I'm still pretty nervous for it because it has to be that much better. Otherwise it's not going to get into festivals, or it's not going to like do well. And we had like 20, 30, we had like almost basically like around 30-ish almost people like help out. Yeah, like because we had basically like almost a different person on crew or in cast every day, and there's like 7 named characters or something like that, maybe more than that, honestly. And it's very all over the place. It's like takes place over like a couple weeks, the story does, and it's a lot of montage, a lot of like this and back and forth, and I love it. I'm very happy with it, but I'm also very nervous for it because I don't know where it's gonna go. And I know I got off on a little tangent there, sorry, but yes, I do think there is a lot of drama in short films, but I don't know if that's like, I like it, but that's my opinion.
Because it's like, it does make sense though, because probably drama is like the least expensive genre, realistically.
Yeah.
Like, you can do it, like your set could truly be anything, like what you already have. and a good drama it still is really fun, but I think just the type of filmmaker I am, like my favorite movies are definitely more of the spectacle, bigger, and I think that factors what my shorts are, but it's like, again, what we were saying, like it's a different medium. So it's like kind of discovering, all right, what type of short films do I want to make? And it's like, well, I don't even know. Do I really want to be the best short film maker I can? It's like, no, I want to be the best filmmaker. So it's like, I don't even know if these skills I'm learning for shorts are going to be, like, I do think there's some storytelling elements, but like in my mind, I'm like, I gotta make, and I know you guys are in the same boat. You're like, I just want to make a feature, you know? It's like, you gotta just figure it out, because it's like, well, all the great filmmakers, you don't really look at them for, like, I know Nolan had an early on short, but like, I don't even know if Tarantino did a short. I know Spielberg had one, maybe a couple, maybe one other, but it's like, some of these, like, I'm trying to think of, and these are older directors. I think maybe some younger directors definitely get their way through short. Did you see the A24 director? They picked up the kid, the 19-year-old.
For the back rooms?
Have you guys seen that short on YouTube?
I'm aware of like the concept of like the back rooms. I think it was all through like Blender or something, right? Like completely all done by him. Yeah.
I haven't seen it, but I was just like, all right, that's kind of cool that A24 just gave a chance on a young director. At least in my head, I'm like, okay, well, it's like, but also that video got 70 million views or whatever the number was. So it's like, all right, they might just be seeing, because I know, have you guys seen, did you hear of Wesley Wang at all? And his, like, it was basically a rip on everything. It was like something except, whatever the title
nothing
was.
Except everything.
Yeah, but that was like, he got picked up after a lot of views. Like, it's like,
yeah, about like Aronofsky, right?
Yeah, is that the chase now? It's like, are festivals, like, I felt like I networked at Cleveland. I was definitely like pursuing people, like trying to talk to people, watching people. Like, it's like, and you have those connects. And I, in my head, I'm like, okay, maybe we'll meet a producer, maybe we'll meet a high-end. I was like, the dream's like, you're going to meet this big producer, this agent that's like, we want to give you X amount of money to make your next film. That's where my head was at. I'm like, here we go. Yeah. Who's going to give us the money? Just kind of waiting for this to happen. And I feel like nowadays, the only people I've really heard about our age getting that chance is almost from like an online blow-up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I heard people talking about that on Reddit earlier today, where they're talking about like maybe that's the new pipeline, is like YouTuber to filmmaker pipeline, you know, getting picked up by A24 or some director too, or someone with money who's like, hey, I like your stuff, bro. Here's a couple $1 million. Go wild.
Go wild. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel so bad that I forget his name, the Backrooms guy, because I obviously I knew of the Backrooms for a while. I didn't actually watch it, but I knew it was like a thing. And all the people that I saw that were talking about it when the news broke that he was getting an A24 film were like, yeah, makes sense, absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
Like they were like, out of anybody or like our age, under the age of like 30 or whatever, who would get a signed deal with a studio, like, yeah, that makes total sense. Absolutely.
Yeah, it wasn't like, who is this random kid who's like, all right, he pulled a massive audience. He did this probably all on his own and built this.
It was like 15, right? 15 or 16.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's crazy.
So I wonder what that means for him because he built that whole thing. Like, I wonder, he's going to be directing it, right? He's the director for it.
I would assume so. I'm not actually 100% sure.
Yeah, I think he was signed on as a director.
So I wonder what, like, because if he made that all on his own, he's probably so used to just, like, building out. Like, I wonder how, and I'm sure he's going to do amazing, too, but, like, just it's an interesting idea to see, like, oh, is he even going to touch the Blender files now? Or is he going to be so hands-off, like, as a director? I don't know what it'll look like. But going back to the YouTube pipeline, if that is the case, starting at 7th grade as a YouTuber, I'm like, fingers crossed, that's the pipeline. But also trying to like, all right, well, maybe I should look at a film that could go, you don't want to put yourself in that mindset though of like, I want to make a film go viral. Because I feel like that, like, same thing with making it shorter or making it tug on heartstrings in a specific way. It's like, does art get affected if you have a goal in mind beforehand, or does that help the art? It's like, I love that idea of saying like YouTube will give you a bigger audience than any film festival could. And it truly could. Maybe those eyes won't be like people that like the bet. So it could just be a random person clicking, but it could also be a high level producer. And I wonder how many high level, I'm sure it's a lot of people, to be honest, like in the industry that are just naturally consuming YouTube or like watching something and then it pops up on your, I mean, it literally can just pop up on your feed at any point. Your film could truly be on anyone's radar at any time. And like getting that thumbnail, it's like, it gets so tricky because you don't want to be like, it doesn't need to be like Little Library. And it's like the actor, like, like titling it like, what happened? Did this lady die? Question mark. And it's like her at the back. Like, I even like titling the, like to drop, because I feel like it's a big thing. It's like you're dropping on YouTube. All right, what, like, do you title it? And I feel like a lot of the short films literally are just the title and it says short film. But at the same time, you're like, well, is that technically the best way to title this? And you're like getting into all this other marketing. Because I think a lot of the best, do you guys know Luca Pizzoleo at all? Luca? He's made like In the Valley of the Moon, all these short, he made the short with the Trevor from GTA. He's been doing like, the way he markets his films is so smart of like showing that behind the scenes and then giving you like, he's basically just like guerrilla marketing himself into getting all these deals. And that's something like I've started to take on is like every week, every Monday, I'll post like what I did that week of like a vlog of like whether it's on set or whether it's like a commercial job or something like that. And trying to get like, I feel like you almost need, and this could also maybe play into that, like trying to get that pipeline of YouTuber to filmmaker is like trying to get that built-in audience that will watch, like when something comes out. Like I feel like when Luca, at least for me, when Luca drops a movie, I'm like, all right, I don't even care. I care about the filmmaker first. And someone was talking about it. They're like, it's almost more important now who the person is making the film than I don't fully believe it, but like at the same time, like I'm actively wanting to really only go see films of directors I like am interested in versus like maybe 10 years ago, it's like, oh, this movie looks really cool. Oh, then director comes second. For me, I'm also obviously extremely biased because I'm deep in the film world of like, I probably care more than a normal person would, but like that, who the person making the film is, it's almost like you're marketing yourself, like your journey. And then here's the thing I made, which I don't know if I like that or don't like that because I feel like maybe it's like egotistical to have like, oh, everyone look at me, I'm a director.
Yeah, I kind of want to talk because Jake and I have been doing some more commercial work and like, I guess corporate style, if you want to talk about that. I just want to talk a little bit about working in that kind of environment. Like how long have you been working for them and kind of what's your role within that company?
Yeah, so JV is these two brothers and good friends of mine now, Johnny and Vince from Chicago, really successful in the commercial corporate world of making commercials, basically getting the client needs something, they get it done for them. Video, photo, marketing. And they moved, so I live in a small town, an hour out from Chicago, like I said, and they were just looking to get away. They're like, we're still based out of the city. We just don't want to live there, starting to have families, getting a little older. We just don't want to the city's just too loud, it's too much. So they moved here about a year and a half ago. And I was doing a freelance gig with someone else as a DP and kind of got connected with them and we did a shoot with them. And then one day on set, there was kind of a moment where there was just they got so overwhelmed with like, the client wanted like an overnight or a rushed export, rushed delivery. Is like, we need this now. And they're like a high paying client, so it's like, got to do it. And at the time, Vince, who's the lead creative at JV, and now who I work under, was like, I could see him almost in this moment of like just pure overwhelmed of like, we just finished a full shoot day and he's like already being asked to edit all night basically for this client. I went up to him and I'm like, look, I know how to edit. I would love to help you. I almost kind of like stuck my foot in the door, not to give advice, but of like, if you see someone struggling and you would like to work with them more, make their life easier and help them to not struggle. And they're like, all right, let's see what you got. So I went over to the office and ripped the edit in his office, just hunched over on this desk on my laptop. It was a 7-hour straight edit. It was like 3 camera angles, like putting in slides. It was like adding text and some like motion graphic work. Just something that like, as at Vince's level, like he should be able to relax. Like I would like, if he could have that weight lifted off him, like I feel like I would want that. I would want someone to ask me that. So I was like, I would just love to give him that. And also, like, selfishly, I'm like, I would love to work with JV. They're an awesome company. How can I make myself valuable? And then started to get asked back more and more, and then was offered full-time position. So I'm basically our second creative lead editor, also acting on, like, when Vince isn't there, helping out with direction and leading the creative and managing all this different stuff. But it's been fun. But also what really drew me in is they saw the films and they're like, we would love to invest in you. We'd love to, like, we see you have a vision. If you ever think that, if you want to do something, pitch us the idea and we want to be there, and we want to either help fund, we want to help bring in crew, we want to do all these different things to help you. And for me, I'm like, I mean, if anyone tells, like, I feel like as a indie filmmaker, if anyone tells you, I want to just be there for what you're doing, you're like, I've been waiting for someone to say this. And this was like, as the film festival was ending. So at the film festival, we truly didn't meet a producer, anyone that's like, we want you to make, hey, we got 40 million for you. You should go make a feature. Like as we were hoping, I mean, not 40 million, but like hoping someone would like see something and want. And I don't think that's because Little Library was bad, but just because it's like, there's 300 films playing, it's like, that the odds are pretty low of that happening. So like they kind of filled that need of me wanting, and like indie filmmaking is not the most financially stable career. Short films make zero money. They only lose you money, truthfully. So it's like at that point I was freelancing a lot. So being able to come on full time and also have like the freedom to like, they were like, Luke, we want you to still really work on your films, all three. So it's like, it's run by Tim, Johnny, and Vince. They're all amazing people. And really learning from Vince as this creative director who's like done a ton of crazy projects. Like they've worked with Nike and Google, and having just like picking their minds of these people of like, all right, how do they work? How is that different? And like what self-taught, because I didn't go to college at all for film school. So I'm all self-taught, and seeing like, okay, all my skills have translated. That's pretty cool. And seeing the work ethic, and it's definitely a fun space. There's definitely times where you're editing like, all right, we got 10 social cut downs of interviews, and you're like, oof, this is definitely not as fun as making a short or making a big commercial, but it's like, you're still in the industry,
Yeah.
so it's still really fun. Have you guys enjoyed being in the commercial? I mean, I know you guys have both done stuff in the commercial space before, but is it fun? Because you guys have your own company now, right?
Yeah. Right now we're still kind of figuring out where we want to go with that. A lot of it is we do want to enter commercial space and commercial filmmaking, but it kind of started out as just a banner to kind of put the films that we make under. Because I own my own like S corp in California. Because I have like one main client that I work with, like the YouTube I mentioned before, and we kind of just wanted something to kind of highlight both of our films. But yeah, we are starting to do commercial work a little bit more and more. And I think it's funny that you mentioned the film to commercial pipeline, because the first person that we worked with under this new company, his name is Frank Rodriguez. We did a garage door. He runs a garage door company, and we did a spot for him. He actually approached Jake as, hey, dude, I love your films. Yeah. Can you do stuff like that for businesses? And he's like, hell yeah, we can. But yeah, I actually don't know where I'm going with that. I actually thought it was kind of funny that we found parallels with that. But yeah, sorry, what was the?
He was just asking like overall like how we enjoy the commercial space.
Yeah, it's definitely different than doing social media stuff or doing like editing per se. I am enjoying it personally right now. I think that. Obviously, it depends on the clients that you find, right? Because you could find some clients that want to do, bam, set this camera up, edit Instagram content. That's fine. I'm not disparaging that, but it's just kind of not something that I would feel fulfilled doing. And I know that's like, it is an absolute privilege to be fulfilled in your work. And I am grateful that I have the ability to, and I have a job that I enjoy doing. And I'm sure you would say the same.
Oh yeah, 100%. I love, like, even being at JV, like Vince the other day and I hung these posters up. Just like having that connection. And I know I'm also like very blessed to have met these guys that are like, I think there's definitely a lot of people in the industry that are like, if you don't know it, you're out. If you don't do exactly what we want, you're out. So like to come to like, it's almost like a family at JV. It's like, we want your ideas. We believe in you, especially like being young, like we're all younger. A lot of people in the industry are a lot older and just like, oh, like just because you've been in the industry 10 years, it's like doesn't automatically mean that you're gonna be better or know more, or like just like sometimes it feels like breaking into or being allowed to like learn without people just like hating of it, like on set too, of like I feel very comfortable to learn and explore in this like commercial world, because I did a lot of like because I feel like there's like two tiers of commercial. It's like like you're saying, like more social content or more like run and gun, and then there's like the legit like making a cool commercial, which are like two different things. And sometimes I feel like saying the commercial, I mean, it makes sense why it's called commercial industry, but like what it is definitely very cool when you're like, oh my gosh, I am getting paid to do something I like doing, or like I don't hate, you know, like I almost forget, like, because I've been in this field for a while, that you're like, oh, the alternative could be sitting at a cubicle typing in numbers or stuff like doing that. So it's like, it's always good, I feel like, to remind like, okay, I get to film people with a camera and edit it. That's, even if it might not be making like a huge film, it's still going to be fun, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's also something I've kind of been struggling with a little bit recently, in terms of working as a day job, in the same like, sphere. Because I found that a lot of the times when I finish a long day of editing, the last thing I want to do when I get home is edit a film. I don't know if you feel the same way, or if you're just kind of fired up for like literally everything you're doing right now, but like,
this is gonna sound probably I'll get home from, like, we just shot Sunday. We had 3 12-hour days, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. We were in Ohio shooting a commercial. So I would get home from our 12-hour day and I would start ripping edits for my vlog, and then getting out this like social cut downs for little library. I feel like it's like, I just don't want to give any, and I totally get what you're saying too, of like, you're like, I do not want to do this, but it's like if I don't post a promo for Little Library, it's like, I feel like I'm killing my dream. I don't know why I feel like that, but just that need to like, and it could be where I'm at right now, where I'm just like, all right, I am going to grind until I literally cannot, like right before this call, I finished an edit like 6:45. I was like, I did 3 exports in DaVinci, and I'm like, all right, these are done. Time to the podcast, of like just constantly trying to push as hard as I can. But it is like, there is days where you're like, dude, there's no way I want, like I felt my writing drastically shoot down. Like in the past 4 months, I haven't written anything, and I have not come up with one new film idea. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm doing work technically, like for my films, like I'm getting the vlog, doing other stuff of like, I am technically moving forward, but I'm like, all right, while I'm in this commercial field, there's definitely a drop. Like there is a little, just because it's like, you only have so much time in your day, you know, of like, I feel like I need to push myself harder to keep creating. Like, I feel like editing comes easier to me when I go home and I'm like, all right, I'm just going to get this edit done. Because I can almost like, there is creativity involved definitely for editing, but I feel like writing is one of those things that truly saps. Like, you just have you literally can't, you're not looking at clips. You don't have music I mean, you can use like music to reference what you're writing, but you're truly just like either typing or looking at a blank pad of like, I just got to create something. But I definitely feel sapped after a day, but I'll try to push through it, just because I'm like, I don't want to give any opportunity to not succeed, you know?
yeah. And I do kind of feel like the one that you're talking about, like having a full-time, or like the job that pays the bills in the creative sphere, is just, I'm not going to say objective, but for the most part, probably a better way to do it, just because you get so much more exposure and familiarity with the tools that you use when you're doing your creative endeavors. Like, if I didn't have Resolve open 6 days a week, then I would not be as proficient as I am right now with it. And like, having a position that basically requires me to have it open 6 days a week is just kind of expedites the learning for any of these tools that you work with.
Oh, 100%. And side note, DaVinci is the way, obviously. It's just better. Like we use it on the cloud, so like any of us can jump into like any project at any time. Like from a production house standpoint or production company, it's huge, but it's just like the color space. You can just do everything. Like Magic Mask now is crazy. I don't know if you've dabbled with it at all. The new one is like, I'm like, this is getting too good. But I love it. I'm like, I'm just gonna, like, I was a Final Cut guy for a while. Now I know that's looked down on pretty hard. And I'm like, I was big on like, it doesn't matter. It's not the tools, it's the creator. And then I used DaVinci and I'm like, oh, it's about 50% of the tools. I'm like, DaVinci is crazy. And like what you're saying, it's like, yeah, I use DaVinci probably unless we're on set 4 to 5 times a week. And it's like, I jumped into to cut down like little library for some social clips. And I'm like, I probably did that way faster than I would have not spending. You are just like training your tools or like picking up. You definitely pick up on little things. Like I was an AC on our last shoot, just working with like the DP and hearing, oh, how does he do this? And like, okay, I'm going to apply that to my next film. Or like, there is some crossover for sure.
Yeah, that's cool. So you also kind of mentioned like you like writing and shooting. Do you how many of those do you kind of do all that? Like you kind of for your own short films, do you like kind of write, direct, shoot, edit, all of that at once?
I look at myself as a director first. I don't think I will probably shoot any more of my films probably ever. I think our last film, Zila, I had a DP and I was like, all right, this is a whole nother world. Like, and that was a year ago. And now I'm like on sets. I'm like, how did I shoot and direct? I'm like, that was just like managing the position alone. I'm like, just saw all these things that I could have done way better of like, okay, that's why you have crew members. It's because literally one person can't really, you can, but it's like, there's a reason especially the DP and director, splitting those two, just someone to literally look after the camera while the director can talk to talent alone. Like it's like, I would literally be like setting up the camera and I'm like checking exposure. I'm like, you got those lines? Like looking at this. And then it's like checking the little audio knob. And it's like, why am I doing that? I'm not even thinking about the story at that point. And I love writing. My dad's also like a writer actor. And he's probably written 3 of the films I've done. And then I've written the other ones. I like writing, but I'm also okay taking someone else's story and adapting it. It's also definitely a little bit easier, just because, not easier, but like sometimes more fun, because it's like I feel like I get more, when I write, sometimes I'm thinking too much about the direction. Like, oh, I want to do a dolly in or I'm big into crash zooms right now. Crash zoom on this. Like I'm thinking too much in that world versus like a writer who's just like, I'm just going to dial in this story. So I'm still figuring out, like, I don't know if I'm going to be the Tarantino of like, oh, I'm going to write and direct everything, or if it's going to be like, I'm going to adapt stories. So I'm still figuring that out. And then commercial work, it's like filling in, still trying to soak up as much as I can on set. I definitely love being a DP on set. I love directing on set. For commercials, I feel most comfortable directing. But also sometimes I'm like, is it easiest? Like directing, you can almost it's not the easiest, but like you can get away, like you're not touching gear, like you don't need to be like, and you're also in control. So if you don't know something, you can kind of cover it up with like a creative idea or like, oh, I don't want to try that. It's not my vision. They're like, oh, let's try to rig X and Y. And you're like, I don't even know what they're talking about. That's not my vision. It's like, you can kind of get away. It's like a safety thing too, a little bit. I mean, I do think directing is hard, but like it's like, you can do it your way. If you're directing, you can kind of do it. You want to do it that way? Guess what? You're the director. You get to do it. ACing was definitely fun last week, like pulling focus, building cameras. I was like, this is fun. I don't need to worry about lighting as much. I just get to dial in. And even like being a PA on some set, like I don't look at myself as a PA, but like sometimes it is fun to just see other people work and like help on their project. But I definitely see myself director first.
Yeah, because the way we used to do it, Owen and I, was we used to direct everything together up until, was that Old Wounds was when we did the last one? So until like January of last year is like when we kind of stopped doing that. And now what we do is I'll direct and write, and then he does like usually like just DP, producer, kind of all that sort of stuff. And we found that was a lot more efficient and made a lot more sense. And it just, I feel like it just kind of like, as soon as we did that, the quality of our film, because I think the last film where we did that was like easily our worst film we've done. And I don't know if it's because of that or like if there's a lot of little things where it kind of like went wrong, but you know, I think once we kind of did that and like chose like, okay, I'm going to do this, you're going to do this, that worked well. And I think that like, did you feel a similar thing happen when you kind of like decided like, you know what, I don't really want to do all of it at once. I kind of want to focus more on like the direction part. Like, did you notice that your like either workflow or your films or whatever, you felt like more proud of it, or you felt more like just efficient at it?
100%. Like even just not having to build the camera and like rig it out and being able to just like, oh, I'm gonna sit here and think. Like even just to be like, to stand still for a second and not feel like, oh, if I'm not moving forward, this whole shoot is going to like crumble. And I'm talking more from like the film world, because I haven't been on a commercial set where I've had to, there's been like one-off shooting, but it's a different thing than making a film, like where you like a one-off client where you're like filming, kind of directing, but not like a full set feel. But that freedom, like it was Vince who truly, when I first met Vince, at JV, was like at their office in 2024 in like December, and it was like right before we shot our short, and I'm like, Vince, I think I'm gonna bring in a DP. I'm like, I don't know, I've always shot. And he's like, the best thing you can do as a director is to empower those around you. And he's like, because in my head I'm like, well, what if he doesn't get my vision? He's like, that is your job as the director, is to communicate your vision to him. Think of it as like, and I think Tarantino has a good quote about this, like, think of it as just an extension of you. Don't think of it as like, oh, this person they're going to do, and they will have their own ideas, but of like, okay, here's my vision, and then they get to play with it. They get to do something like, working with a really great DP, they can take your vision, they can elevate it way higher than you could. And it's like finding the right people that are so good in what they do and so good at taking your ideas and bringing in their own ideas too, of like, I remember there was just a moment on set where I'm like, right now we're waiting on someone and I truly don't need to do anything. And it almost felt like wrong. Like I struggle with the hurry up and wait saying. Like sometimes it's like, well, especially on shorts, it's like, well, what could we be doing? And it's like, sometimes you truthfully just have to wait for someone to like move up a C-stand or like lift it up or just something like that. But it was so freeing to have. And I'm like, why? Maybe it was an ego thing where I'm like, I'm going to shoot it all. I'm going to direct it all, of like struggling to give up the camera. And on Zila, Tommy, this guy named Tommy Oldham shot it, a friend of mine. And he brought in some really great vintage glass. It was like the glass they used on Dune. And it was like, it just gave it this feel. And I'm like, that's a whole other area I didn't even think about, is like, oh, the DP is going to be like, oh, let me start thinking about lenses. Let me be like as a director, I'm like, all right, I was going to shoot it. I think this is funny, where I was like, all right, I'm going to shoot this. I'm just going to use my Sony 24-70, 2.8. Let's film it on a wheelchair. And I remember him being like, sending me the link to these lenses, and it was like $30K to buy. And I'm like, dude, I'm not buying those. And he's like, no, I got a buddy that owns them. I'll get them for free. And I'm like, what? I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, just like, oh, wait a minute. More people know more people that also like, I can't even imagine what the film, and he's like, oh, we're not using a wheelchair. He's like, we'll use my Dana Dolly. And I'm like, at that point, I didn't even know, like, I didn't even use a Dana Dolly before. And I'm like, oh, I know what that is. I'm like, I didn't even know we could have access to that. And like all this other stuff. I'm like, it would have been a wheelchair with like a freaking sharp 24-70 just like rolling around. And then now it's like a creamy, like nice vintage glass on a Dana Dolly. And I'm like, if I would have been, I feel like almost selfish to shoot it and like not trust someone else. And it also was like a little fear of like, and Tommy's 10 years older than me, of like, all right, if I'm working with a DP older than me, maybe he's going to look down on me, or maybe he won't trust me, or all these different things. And it was just like Vince, who's like, just let go of it, just empower him to do his job. And he did, and he brought in, and he really made it work. But I was like, what would happen if I would have had that for Little Library or for my other shorts, of like, kind of, it's hard sometimes to look back and not be like, shoot, I wish I would have done X, or.
Yeah. Is Zila, are you trying to do a festival run with her right now?
Yeah, right now it's out in festivals. Finished it probably 2 months ago. It's just so hard to it's like all the festival, like I don't know the exact, do you guys know what the exact festival, like the best time for is it the summer or is it the winter? I can't get a good lock on. I know it's different for everything, but
I mean, summer and winter are obviously the two big seasons because most films take place those. I want to say summer for a lot of the mid-tier ones, the low and mid-tier ones. Obviously, what? No, because Con takes place like in July, right?
yeah.
Can't.
Well, like
CanCon.
I mean, there's Sundance, but it's like I submitted Little Library to Sundance, got absolutely smacked with the declined. It's like I knew that was a shot in the dark too.
Yeah.
But I don't like. Part of me is like, you know what? What if I just dropped Zila? I'm like, what if I just dropped these films? I'm like, and there's something also like at Cleveland, they were like, hey, we love reoccurring filmmakers. They're like, send us your other shorts. So like, we'll probably program them. And I was like. I was just like, what? Like, not even here. Like, I didn't even think about that. Like, they're like, we love alumni because it helps people form a brand. Your audience might already know the fest, or people might remember you and all this stuff. I'm like, oh, does it? It does probably get easier if you know the person. Like, oh, we already know he got in. We trust him. Let's go. We know it played well. We'll probably because these people are watching so many shorts. Being a judge it must suck, to be honest. Like 400 short films sounds brutal, to be honest. Like here's like another, even if it's like crazy, there's like clicking through these films and you're like, another, it's like, oh, 30-minute film, are you kidding me? Like I would be at that point where I'm just like, I got to get 10 films done today. And if it's like 5 minutes, I'm like, I love it. But if it's like a 30 and it's like, so thinking about that aspect sometimes sucks too. You're like, well, what time of the day are they going to watch it? Are they going to watch it when they're like these judge, like who's the judge watching your film too? Maybe they just hate what you're making, which is like a weird mind game.
There's I think it's called the hungry judge effect, but it's the idea that like, there's like I don't know if it's like a real study or whatever, but basically the idea is like, they noticed a pattern where, right before lunch, the judge gave out the most harsh sentences like for the day. So for example, if someone burglarized a house and they typically get like 2 to 5 years, the judge would be, okay, fine, 7 years if they were like hungry. But if it was right after lunch, they were way more lenient with their sentences. And so I wonder like if that translates. I'm sure it does, because that if you're on a set, for example, and it's really hot outside and it's like you are out there all day in the sun, you're getting like sunburned and stuff, like and someone's like, hey, could we actually get one more shot? You're like, no, get out of here. Like you want to like, you want to like punch him in the face, right? Like, so there's stuff like that. So I wonder, like, it definitely probably does matter when the judge watches it, if they watch, because imagine if they watch like a really like good film right before yours, and then yours comes up, and even if your film is like still pretty good, it's gonna like look like a little like tiny like minuscule little film, compared to this like masterpiece right before you, or the other way around. Maybe some really like terrible film goes in front of you and then makes yours like, so you might get like a judge who just is a bit biased with and it's not really in your control at that point.
Yeah, and that's also like an important reminder too, if you submit a film that you worked really hard on to a festival, it might not be your fault that it was rejected or that it wasn't selected or whatever. It could be for so many different reasons, like the judge was having a bad day, and then for more objective reasons to like obviously technical stuff, but also stuff that extends to like the festival programmer didn't think that your film was a right fit for like the audience that shows up might not enjoy it, where if it was this other festival, maybe the audience would be perfect. So like I hear so often people get really demoralized when a film that they work so hard on doesn't get into any festivals. But it is just an important reminder with that, and also with just like things in life too. Like if you don't get hired for this job that you really wanted, it could be like, maybe it wasn't your lack of qualification or your perceived lack of qualification. Maybe it was like, this person had a brother who works there, and so the position went to them. It like could have literally nothing to do with you, but everyone, I think it's just human nature to take rejection super personally.
Yeah, especially in film where you're like pouring your your money, your time, like you're like, this is almost like my golden ticket like into the, like I think of every short, I'm like, all right, this has got to be better than my last. It's got to get me, I would love if it could get me this whatever outcome. And I feel like YouTube doesn't eliminate that by putting it out there, but it almost makes it like, all right, if a ton of people don't watch this film over a certain period of time, it probably means it wasn't the greatest thing. And as I'm saying that, I'm also like, well, maybe the algorithm didn't pick it up. Maybe like there's also those, there's always going to be an excuse. There's always going to be something that didn't happen, but it's like you hurt yourself the most if you're not continuing to create. Like if you just take that, you take the L and you're just like, all right, looks like I'm done. I'll never make anything again. It's like, well, now you know you're definitely never going to make, there's some quote there that's like, if you say no, you're definitely out, but if you try, you still have a chance or something like that. Like, at least keep going of like the motivation aspect of like, all right, this short didn't work out, but whatever, and it could get so corny. It's like, whatever, I'll keep trying. It's like, but it is almost like, all right, if I'm just going to keep making, and that's where I'm at. I'm like, especially being at like where I'm at now of like, all right, I don't need, because I was in a place of like, dude, I need these shorts to work out. Like I'm trying to figure out, I'm like, freelance, it was doing well, but some months are, as you know, really nice and some months aren't. And I think that's how freelance goes. But being a part of a production company has been nice. But of like, now it's like, all right, these films are going to come out. Obviously, I would love to make a really awesome movie sooner rather than later. But it's like being at peace almost at like, I'm going to keep trying, but I'm not going to lose myself or lose my mind if it doesn't do well, because it's like, all right, I'm already thinking a step ahead, you know?
Yeah. Where are you with a feature right now? Like, I'm obviously, I would assume a year, at least like multiple years away maybe, but like, is that something that you are working towards? Do you have an idea for one? Like, I'm just curious, where are you at with that right now?
Yeah, I have a script for a feature. It's this, I'm not going to say a ton because I don't know legally what I am allowed to say.
Legally? Oh, given to you. Okay.
It's like this story about these two kids, a drama. So this is where I'm at mentally. I'm like, and I'm just going to be fully like where my mind's at of like, all right, if I tell this story, it's like a drama, which I know I'm like, well, I'd prefer to do something, probably not. But also it's like, if you're making a feature and it's not a drama, good luck being under budget on that. And it's like about going from these two friends that go from Chicago to back home to like kind of this beach. There's someone that lives around here, this writer that moved here from Chicago that wrote this story about these two friends that move here. So like I have a script, like there is definitely a script out there that's fully written. I think it's great that I'm like, I think I could shoot it and I think I could do it, especially now with like JV backing me of like, they have a ton, that's where they're from, like all their crew really, and all of our crew is from Chicago of like, could probably build a really great crew there. And it takes place somewhere like, it's not like we're gonna need to fly out of the US to do it, or fly, like we could do it pretty reasonably. And I'm kind of playing on like, is this the one? I'm almost like, well, one more short, then I'll be ready. Like that kind of mindset too, or like, oh, what happens if Little Library blows up on YouTube? Or what happens if Zila blows up? Like, what happens if Grayscape, whatever it is of like, oh, kind of thinking like, what if a producer sees it? And then I'll be at that point, I'll be able to do X more with my feature. Like I'm trying to like play out how well can what I made like put me ahead. So like when I do make my feature, I'm at the best chance to make it the best it can be. Like I want all my films, I think I want all my short films to be out before I do it. But also a feature takes up a month. It's like, can I stop doing commercial work for a month? Like, am I at that place of like managing that too? So I'm kind of in that, like I would love to do it. There is a script. I don't know if it's the one. It sounds like I'm dating the script, but it's like, I don't know if it's the one. We kind of got a thing back and forth. I like it, but I don't know. But where are you guys at? I know are you probably similar, like trying to get shorts out?
Yeah, I mean, I do have one script I wrote. I think 2 years ago at this point, if not something close to that. But yeah, I have one script that's written. It does need a lot of work because again, I wrote it quite a long time ago. And I think if you imagine a film you made 2 years ago and imagine trying to like, put that back out or whatever, like you'd be like, oh no, I had to like change a lot. So yeah, it needs a lot of work. But I think that is probably what we're going to try to do for our first one. The short we mentioned earlier too, that it was like 22-page script and I condensed it down. I also think that has potential to be a feature film if I wanted, like the longer version, just because there is like there's a pretty intense character arc in it, and the character arc kind of just is the film. Like the film is made on that like sort of character transformation. So I think a feature with that could also work. So that's kind of like two. I have like a bunch of like little ideas, but I only have one script that I actually wrote. But that's kind of where I'm at with it. It's probably gonna be different for Owen because it's more technical kind of side.
I have no fucking idea.
So do you think you could technically pull off a feature?
Yeah. I would say I would probably want one more because with a feature, I would obviously want to check the script and probably do a short in a similar style as that one, as the feature. But I would probably want like one more bigger short set before I would feel fully confident in the ability to do a feature. Technically, I guess.
What you're saying reminds me of, so there's a guy I know, a writer in LA that was like, he was developing Tommy Boy 2. Like they had a lot, like they're almost there. Like they had meetings with Paramount, and like his advice, like as an accomplished writer, like comedy writer, he was like, what you're kind of saying of like, shoot one scene or one part of your feature, and he's like, that will make your funding, like your ability to get funding, like shoot up. And this is somebody who's like made the $60,000, $70,000 short films of like, all right, it's like, if you're gonna raise money and someone can see what it will look like, try shooting. And I don't know, I'm like, I think that I agree with that, but at the same time, it's easier said than done. And like, you also don't want to shoot it and then you get better and then you use that scene again, it doesn't fit or whatever that's at. But like that idea of like, okay, let's just shoot a scene from it. Maybe it even doesn't get used, or just like, does this work? Or can we use this for funding or something like that too? And as I'm saying this, I'm like, my other idea for a feature is to do a big action. Like we have a huge, like, and people know when like Great Escape comes out, it's like this it feels like a jungle almost, like this big foresty, like mountain area. It's called Grand Mere. It's like 5 minutes from where I am right now. And I'm like, I would love to do something like a mystery action, like island. It's kind of, I have to figure out how to not make it cheesy and not in the trope of go to an island. Oh no, other people are on the island. Oh no, escape the island. Like it's in that realm of like, I want people to end up, they feel like they're on an island. They feel like they're on a jungle. They're trying to get out, but of not making it, like subverting the expectations there. And I'm like, okay, that could be something I do. It could be not, it wouldn't be drama at that point. It could be more of an action, like shot. It could be shot 10 minutes from me, which is that would be huge. And I'm not. You guys are you guys are in LA, like you guys are in California. So it's like I'm in the Midwest. It's a different world out here too. Of like, there truly is no other like. There's other people making shorts, but it's like not trying to be mean, but it's like there really is no competition. It's like big fish, small pond. Versus like a million fish. So I also am like,
yeah,
I don't know. In the Midwest, you can definitely like, everyone wants to make, like we just had a DP who was in here in our office today talking to us. He's super awesome commercial DP. And he's like, please, I just would love to make a narrative project of like, I'm like, dude, you're amazing. I'm like, you could like make your own thing of like, not even just like, there's not as much movement, as much as that term sounds cheesy. Like there's not as much movement out here of like, truthfully, I don't know, do you guys feel like that, like everyone's trying to make a film where you are?
I mean, we're like a little over 6 hours away from LA. We're in like kind of by Sacramento. So I mean, like we're not quite like Northern California is definitely not nearly as big of a film hub as LA, but compared to what I would imagine it would be like in like the Midwest or like just some other spots in the US, it probably is like substantially more, just based on that, like probably more saturated or whatever you want to call it. But I mean, we we recently kind of got into like this sort of network of like a lot of the people who go to Sacramento State, a lot of like the kind of film people over there, and there's a pretty substantial amount of people. Like there I could name like, you know, like 6-ish director, DP kind of people. I can name more than that, but you know, I can definitely name a lot of people who are, you know, 20 minutes away that are kind of like either at the same level Owen and I are at, or above, or, you know, not quite there yet. But yeah, there's a lot of people. I definitely think we have a pretty good spot with that.
Yeah.
Cool.
But,
yeah, it's a whole different the Midwest. Yeah, it's fun. It's just like, it truly is. Like like the other day, I remember just even hearing like, oh, someone else is trying to make a film. I'm like, what? Like, especially like in our town, like.
Give me his Instagram now.
Yeah, it's like, it is. It's like within everyone is either 2 or 3 hours away, and it's like one person. It's like they haven't made anything, but they love to try. It's like, it's just a different, which makes me like excited, but also nervous too. It's like, you really can people aren't going to probably charge their full rate. Like everyone's offering like, oh, I'll do half of my rate. I'll do half my rate to do this. And you're like, okay, I don't want to give you half your rate, but if you're offering, you know, it's like when you're producing something, you're like, you're trying to get it made if just possible, but definitely want to, like, that's part of like, want to lead the Midwest and like, all right, the Midwest, you can make movies wherever you are. Like you don't need to wait for someone, or you don't need to wait to be in Hollywood, especially now, I feel like, to make it. I mean, you guys aren't in LA and you're still getting it done. Like, people think you need to live in LA, and I'm like, you're competing against the top of the top there. It's like, if you're in a different area, you can still compete, but you're not like, I can't even imagine what it would be in LA to be like trying to start up. Like, I guess PAing the same kind of route of like working your way up, but I just feel like it would be, I just know from paying rate, like hearing other filmmakers having to pay like, oh, we have to rent this out, like everything costs money to do there. You're paying union rates probably on everything. It's like, just sounds brutal, to be honest.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, I think that's kind of all we have for today. Luke, if they want to find out, if the audience wants to find out, you know, more about Little Library or any of your films or any of your, because I know you also do YouTube, right?
Yeah.
I don't think we really got into your YouTuber life, but where can they do all that? Where can they find you?
You can find me just by looking up my name, Luke Ring. You'll probably find all my links. You see my personal website, my production company, Sukavision. That's where Little Library will be. It's on YouTube. You can also just search Little Library short film. A lot of fun stuff coming up, and if you want to see what the weekly life of a commercial/narrative filmmaker, gotta check out the vlog. I highly recommend, no bias.
Awesome.
Absolutely, yeah. If you want to find me, my name is @owencar.dp on Instagram. Jake, where are you at?
I'm on Instagram @JakeRossBell.
Awesome. And then thank you so much for tuning into this episode of IndieFilm Insider. If you want to listen to, what are we doing? Who was the last one?
Was that not Luke Hawks?
Yes, the other Luke.
Yes, two Lukes back to back.
So if you want to check out Luke Hawks, professional Hollywood level stuntman, you can check that out right here.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, boys.
Watching. Of course.
Awesome.
Thank you. It was great talking with you.